So one of the things you got to consider when you pick the bike that you're dialing into the type of riding that you want, you have to match that with the kit. You got to make sure you have the right shoes, the right helmet, the right clothes, the right jacket, the right glasses, the right socks, the right gloves. Got to make sure all that's dialed in to make your ride perfect. Now I'm gonna go fast. So I got my special road kit on, my special road helmet, my special road glasses, Tour de France edition, my special road gloves. There's different kinds of gloves though. We can't just have any one glove. These are hot weather gloves. These are cool weather gloves. See, full fingers. Oh, but when it gets really cold, gotta have Gore-Tex gloves. Got those as well. Okay, but when you're going out road riding, if you're going out early in the morning, it might be a little chilly. Gotta have a little bit of a long sleeve shirt. Long sleeve shirt when it gets just a little bit on the colder side. But if it gets even colder, gotta have a fleece one. So you gotta put that one on too to make sure you're like super warm. Oh, but then if it's cold and windy, well, you better put this is a Gore-Tex shell, soft shell jacket. It's important to have. I can't even get it on. There we go. That one keeps you even warmer. But what if it's raining? If it's raining, you gotta have a rain jacket. It's a Gore-Tex rain jacket. Gotta have that too. What about my legs? Right. So if it's, you know, a little windy, I got these wind stoppers on here. Got those. It's not quite as cold. I've got these just kind of stretchy ones here as well. But of course, full on rain, gotta have Gore-Tex rain pants. Gotta be prepared when you're going out on the road. But if you're gonna go gravel, you don't be wearing all this road kit. Gotta have special gravel stuff. So, you know, these shoes aren't gonna work. I better put the other specific gravel shoes on, of course, because, you know, they have different types of cleat systems on it. Because I gotta have different pedals. Get pedals for road, pedals for gravel, pedal for mountain bike. Special gravel shorts. Transition. Oh, can't wear that. Special gravel jersey. Special gravel helmet. I think I'll put on my Tour de France glasses anyway because I still want to go fast. But if you're going mountain biking, protection is key. Protect your eyes, protect your body, especially mountain bike shoes. Hi, I'm Wayne from Brodie Bicycles. Today I just want to talk a little bit about our urban bike lineup. You know, this isn't all of them, but this is most of them. It's sort of how do you choose between sort of one, you know, from the Brodie Bolt all the way up to the Brodie Venture over there. How do you decide which one you want to go with, and you know what are the implications when you move up the lineup? But I'll kind of start here with the Bolt. So the Bolt this year, we got a new color on it. Hasn't changed much in spec, you know, over the last couple of years because we really worked hard to try and keep this at $6.99. You know, right now with inflation being what it is, everything costing a fortune. You know, you're paying $8 for a dozen eggs. You know, we really tried to focus on keeping this at a really nice price point as a nice entry-level bike. But being entry-level doesn't mean it's short of features. It has a ton of features on it. So the first thing of note is this bike is a steel chromoly bike with a steel chromoly fork. And it has a 3x7 drivetrain. So there's 7 gears on the back and 3 on the front. So think of that as sort of low, medium, and high. But there's a lot of mounts on this bike, so you can, you know, mount things like fenders and racks and so forth, no problem. But one of the couple things to note about this bike is this bike has V-brakes on it. So V-brakes work really, really well when it's dry. Lots of power, good modulation, all that kind of stuff. But they do suffer a little bit when you get into the bad weather. So when it's wet, or if you're like, you know, you're in a really hilly area, you might want to consider moving up into disc brakes. But for getting around town, being a commuter, getting to work, you know, even as just a fitness riding around bike, the Bolt works great for that. But what do you get when you move up? So at $6.99 and you go up into the Omega, this jumps to $8.99. So what do you get when you move from the Bolt to the Omega? Well, you get the same type of frame, so the Bolt's chromoly steel with chromoly fork on it, but there's actually, the Bolt comes in 4 sizes, and the Omega comes in 5 sizes. So if you're on the cusp a little bit of whether you want a small or a large or whatever, if you're in the kind of middle and you're not exactly sure what size, this one will give you a little bit more options to be able to find that fit a little bit better. So the other thing this bike has is this is now an 8-speed. So you go from 7-speed to 8-speed. So the Omega has a 2x8 speed drivetrain. So it's a very low range gearing though. We put a 3622 on the front with an 11 to 32 8-speed rear cassette on the back. So the reason why we put this low range of gearing on it is that if you load it up full of stuff with panniers, things you're bringing to and from work, sometimes it's a bit of a chore getting up and down the hills if you live in a hilly area. So having that lower gear range makes it a lot more usable when you're carrying a lot of different things. You'll notice that there's lots of mounting points on this, including a triple mount on the front fork that allow you to put things like anything cages, be able to use front panniers, front racks, and so forth. So a little bit more versatility with this one than with the Bolt in just some of the mounting points. And like I said, you get the extra gear on there as well. So now what do you get when you move up into the Dynamo? So the Dynamo now is a 9-speed on the back. So you go 7, 8, 9. So this one has a 4630, which is a really nice sort of adventure drivetrain on it. But on the rear, it has an 11 to 42. So it has a huge range. So out of all the bikes here, this one has the most range as far as the easiest gear to the hardest gear than any of them on here. So one of the benefits of that is mostly if you're riding mostly road. So if you're riding on the road and things like cadence are important to you, this would allow you to dial in that, that cadence or that rotation that you prefer, your preferred riding style. This one will give you a little bit more easier options to be able to dial that in. So you see on this one, we've got this one mounted with a rack. Doesn't come with a rack, but hooking up panniers and racks just make it a lot easier to carry around your stuff. So this is part of our A-Tran Velo set. So A-Tran Velo is really nice because you can just pull things on and off, whether it's baskets or panniers, and they just clip in, really nice and easy like that. But lots of mounting points on this. The other thing you get in when you get into the Dynamo and the Venture is that they are no longer steel bikes. These are aluminum bikes, although they have a steel fork. The benefit to aluminum is just a little bit lighter weight, a little bit snappier performance. So if you do, sort of more road riding, longer rides, you'd probably be better served looking at a Dynamo to be able to, like I said, dial into your riding style with the gear ratio. It has a bit more usable gear range. And also as you move up into the Omega from the Bolt, you get into disc brakes. Now these are mechanical disc brakes. The big benefit of having disc brakes is when the weather turns lousy and it's wet out, they give you a lot more stopping power, a lot more modulation, and they also give you more power if you're in a lot of really hilly terrains. So you definitely get more power and ease of use, less hand strain, stuff like that when you're using disc brakes as opposed to V-brakes. Now in the dry again, you're probably not going to notice much difference between the two. But in the poor weather, you'll absolutely have more power and modulation with going into disc brakes. And when you move up into the Venture, you also get disc brakes, but they're hydraulic disc brakes. So what's the difference between hydraulic and mechanical disc brakes? Well, hydraulic, more power, more modulation. That's the basics of it. Some people really like having mechanical disc brakes because it allows you to do repairs in the field and allows you to fine-tune them a little bit easier, whereas hydraulics are all kind of automatic. But for myself, having hydraulic brakes, having that extra power modulation, especially when it's really wet, there's a huge benefit, a lot less hand fatigue if you're riding on your brakes a lot through the day. Sorry, I forgot to mention the price. $699, $899, $1099. So that's what you get when you move up into from $899 to $1099. And then when you move up into the Venture, this one's $1199. So the Venture and the Dynamo, they share the same frame. So they're both aluminum with steel fork on them. But you'll notice the drivetrain in this one's quite a bit different. This has what we call a 1x drivetrain. So there's a single sprocket on the front, that's 40 teeth. But on the back, there's a huge range cassette. It's a 10-speed with an 11 to 48. So a huge range, not quite as broad of a range as the Dynamo, but it really has the simplicity of not having a front derailleur. So the nice thing about that is you can just get on that bike and just ride it really easily. All you have to worry about is the front derailleur, where you just click a button, it's harder. You click another button, it's easier. You just move up and down that. So it still has a full enough range that you can use it 99% of all different circumstances that you might need. But it does have that simplicity and a little less weight and a little less complexity of having a 1x drivetrain. This one also has hydraulic disc brakes, which, again, a lot of power. The other differences between the Dynamo and the Venture, actually in all of them, is the tire choices. So if you go all the way back to the Bolt, has a 700 by 35C tire, exact same tire as is on the Omega, and pretty much the exact same tire that's on the Dynamo is a 700 by 35. But when you move up into the Venture, it's a 700 by 40, so a little more volume. A little bit more volume in there allows you to run a little bit lower tire pressure for a little more comfort and a little bit more traction. We also put a little bit more aggressive tread on the Venture, so you can use that as even a light gravel bike, take it off-road, even do some light bike packing on it, no problem at all. One of the things you might notice that all of these bikes come with flat pedals. We equipped them that way because at the end of the day, you don't need any of this stuff. Look at me, t-shirt, shorts, sandals, just get on your bike and ride. These are the get on the bike and ride bikes. One of the things you do need though, you should always remember, is wear a helmet. You know, it always frustrates me too when I see parents or adults teaching other kids how to ride their bike and they got the kids wearing the helmets for sure, but then the adults aren't wearing the helmet. All you're showing your kids then is that when the kids get old enough to become an adult, they don't have to wear a helmet anymore. That's not the message you want to send. Remember, helmets are for life, not just for kids. You gotta remember, the most important part though, is when you stop at the Starbucks, middle of your ride, end of your ride, gotta have the cool guy hat, gotta have the cool guy glasses. You're hanging out with your coffee. You know, I've never even been to the BC bike race.